Hey, what's up, guys? We're about to get started on getting this hydraulic press brake CNC machine up and going. And you see I've got 20 gallons of number 46 hydraulic fluid there. And I've got my 8-4 SO cord, 8 gauge, 4 wires. And I use these style connectors here, and they're 50 amp. I think they're known as RV plug. I don't know exactly what they're primarily used for. 50 amp, 4 wire. And if you use this L in the center lug, and you can see it's got that option for that it's rated for 30 amps with that. So I use those everywhere, and you can see my laser machine not on yet, but I keep it unplugged all the time, and I only plug it in when I need it. It'll be the same way for this. And so let me show you. I had a piece of 8-4 laying around. I think it's about 8 feet of it, and it would have worked. We just got to go from right here to over here, but it was going to be a tad bit short, and there wasn't going to be enough slack to leave a little service loop, you know, there. So we got to come in right through one of those holes, and we got our L1, L2, L3, and our PE, otherwise known as protective earth. And in this machine, I guess that's both neutral and ground, but primarily ground because I believe that's how it's wired in the fuse box. But that is how we're going to wire it. And then we're going to put the hydraulic fluid in. Let me show you up here. You see the bolt there and one there. This whole top panel comes off and exposes the reservoir, so we're just going to dump it in. And I think I'm going to use the forklift to lift the bucket up here, up and over. I think hopefully we'll see where I can get to a good angle, but yeah, so we'll bring it along on that, and hopefully we'll get it filled up, powered up, and then you know, we'll check out this little guy, the Sib Touch 8. Pretty common control for press brakes. All right, well, there's our reservoir. Pretty interesting that it's not like sealed up completely. I don't know, seems like it would be easy to get stuff in there, but it does have a filter right there, right on the inlet to the pump. So let's see if we can get some fluid dumped in here. All right, so I got this fed in through the hole here, and the grommets I had and the slip connectors I had, none of them were the right size for the pre-fit holes. So I just wrapped around some extra insulation there and poked some holes in that cable track, whatever you call that. Got them connected in, and they're snug. Whoops, that one's not. All right, so we got a few more things to cut loose in here. We've got our foot pedal and some extra dies and things that I've got. So let me get all this out and we'll take a look at it. All right, so just a little bit about what was attached back there. I drug it all out. So this is our foot pedal to activate the press, and it connects in. It's got this style connector right there. And then the other things that came where this is something I requested to so that we could bend thicker material in narrower widths. I think this will go up to 10 millimeter or 3/8, but I got to verify that. And probably, you know, like maybe 12 inches wide or so. So that'll be handy to have to be able to install that die and bend thicker materials. And then it came with a grease gun. Probably don't need it. Most everybody that will buy a press brake probably has a grease gun. They did send several seals and O-rings. I'm guessing if you develop some leaks with the hoses and so forth, that you can use those. A set of metric keys, and then this is the same brand as the laser. The logo on it was all peeling off from the shipping, so I just peeled it off of there, but you can see the Prima Press logo up top. And they make a bunch of different sizes, and I'll definitely be upgrading to a larger one pretty soon. So that's what we got. Let me get the rest of it finished up and see what she'll do. All right, well, we got it almost to the top there, 20 gallons in there, and as I understand it, it needs to be about 90% full. You won't get the full pressure on every plunge if you don't, so we'll get the cover back on it. See if we can slip this in here, and we'll get that bolted up and fire it up, see what happens. All right, so we're at the moment of truth. We've got a rotary style contactor on it, and so here's our plug and our end that we made up. So let's get that plugged in. Now I know some people are gonna say, well, you should have that on a, you know, physical disconnect, like one of those big breaker style, that you'd have conduit all the way to the machine, and then a rigid conduit and rigidly mounted shut off switch, and then like flexible conduit going into the machine. But you know, code says you definitely have to have a cutoff switch, a way to get it disconnected. And I've verified in my area with the guy that did the original electrical work here that this is an acceptable way to do it, because, you know, if something were to happen, this is the same as a disconnect. Just as easy to unplug this as it is to find a handle and, you know, yank it down. So all right, so we got that plugged in, and I know the breaker's on, and then we've got our display console here, so we should see that power up. And then the only other thing is the rotation of the pump. You know, if we got our L1, L2, L3, we got something backwards there, so we're gonna get the pump rotating backwards, possibly the motor and the pump. So we'll have to check that and see if we got to reverse a couple of the wires, but let's see what happens. All right, so that let's see if the e-stop is on. It is not. So I don't know if we can just raise this up and down or what. So let's see if we can get it to go up. All right, well, I don't know exactly what's going on here, but obviously you can see we got it powered up, and we got our light on there, work light, so you can see what you're doing. But if I'm assuming that this raises the brake, but I don't know that for sure. You hear the clicking in there. If I hit this start, I get some kind of error in Chinese. And if I go up on this, nothing happens at all with that. So that's what we got so far. I'm sure it's going to be something. I think this E2 does mean that it needs to be raised all the way up, but when I hit this, I don't hear the hydraulics running, you know. So I'm going to try reversing 2 of the wires and see what we get then. All right, so first thing you got to do is get this in a format that you can read. So I couldn't see this before, but there's this other menus and then user preferences, and then you can set the English or the language to English and the unit of measurements to inches, which is what we're doing here. So now I can see what's happening. This is actually what you use to turn the pump on with. And I tried it earlier and it would pop up the message right there. See that? Please press for 2 seconds. But it was coming up in Chinese. I couldn't see what it was saying. But that is the control to turn the pump on. So if we hold that down for 2 seconds, now we have the pump on. And I can raise this up or with the foot pedal. So that's all the way up and then down. So you can program, you know, the angle you want and the length of the legs that you're bending. You know, that's all part of the control that's controlled by this. You see the lead screw there, or ball screw. I guess that's what it is. Some kind of screw that controls this mechanism back here that slides it in and out to give you your back gauge up against this. But the width is not programmable here. So you can only manually set how, you know, whatever width of the part that your bending is, you know, you'd have to manually set those, which is fine for a little basic one. And this one only, you know, came with 2 dies. You know, so if you were going to be bending pans and boxes and things like that, you'd have to order some extra dies, which I can get pretty much anything you want, you know, as far as radiuses or you know, the bend, how tight you want it to be, you know, and all that. So like I showed earlier, I got this one die for narrower widths for bending thick material. So we'll throw something up there in a little bit and see what happens. So right now I just want to get maybe some scraps and put in there and just manually bend it. So I'll set the tripod up and show a few things on that, and then we'll see about programming something, because in a couple of days I got a job I'm working on that we're going to want to program it to bend something with. All right, we're going to do a little bit of manual bending here just to kind of get a feel for what's going on, and this is a little bit of 16 gauge scrap. So let's see, manual movements, and I'm going to turn the pump on. So a little 90-degree bend there, and maybe we can take it back the other way. See how tight we can make it. Yeah, that's not going to work. Pretty neat little bend profile, just manually messing around with it there. Let's try some aluminum. All right, this is 90 thousandths thick aluminum, a little under 1/8 of an inch, like 3/32, somewhere in that range. Oh, let me show you real quick. So we could manually set the depth on the back gauge here. It's asking you, you know, how far back you want it. Right now it's at 3 inches back, or 3.9 inches back. So if we wanted to make this 1 inch back, you can hear it moving. So let me show you that. All right, so we got that at like 1 1/8 inch back there. So if we wanted to put a 1 1/8 inch lip, you can just manually set that. And then just hold it up against the dies there, square, while you're pressing down. I don't know if we have, I can already tell you this is not a square edge on that, so it's not a good, you know, good example, but because this is just a drop. But if you wanted a 1 inch lip, a little thicker material, not quite as sharp on the bend radius, but so we probably need some different dies for this. Guys, you're watching me for the very first time use a CNC press brake, so I don't even know what I don't know, but pretty soon I will. All right, let's see about bending something thicker. Okay, so you see we got these edges, and they lock in place, and they swing out, so you can change the dies out. All right, so let's grab some 1/4 inch material and throw it in there. All right, it sounded like it was bottoming out there, but that's 1/4 inch, not quite 90 degrees. So let's check it out again. All right, 3/8 there. Sounds like that's definitely really maxing out the machine. You could hear it, the hydraulics. Let's see if we can program it now to do a full bend profile. All right, so you saw that bend profile in the CAD there, so we're gonna set up the program to do that real quick. So we've already selected, you know, our material, which is gonna be steel and 125 thousandths, 1/8 inch. It's actually 120 thousandths. I don't really know if this does anything or not, if it calculates the K factor and all that. Based on that, we're gonna set it just to make sure, and we're gonna make them 90-degree bends, and we know that the first leg needs to be 1 inch, and then if we go here let's see. Let's try it again. New program, create a new program. Okay, here we go. So we are going to reselect the material point 1, 2. And we're going to take the defaults on these. And then, so 90 degrees, and then the first leg, we're going to say 1 inch on that. If you hit this, it'll let you add another step. We're going to say yes. And that is, you can see we're on step 2 of 2 right there. And we're going to make this one 2 inches. And so we're going to turn the pump on and hit start. And that brought it down sort of in position. And from here, all I think you have to do is go against the backstop, which had already put that in the 1 inch position there. All right, to start the program now, see we're on step, whoops, we're on step 1 of 2. So we're gonna hit the start button, and watch when I hit the start button, it's gonna move the backstop up into position. So that's got that on a 1 inch leg there for us. I turned it off there. So if you see the mode right here, you can select that to do an angle, and based on the material that you put into it, it will calculate the number there that it needs to come down to. So I've been playing around with this number here, and 6357 is the number that it needs to be. All right, 6357 at 1 inch, and then go to the next program, 6.357. So one leg at 1 inch and another leg at 2 inches. So I'm going to back you away, and let's see if we can get it to make a nice bend now. Really good. Probably can get that dialed in a little bit better, but yeah, so obviously I've just shown the basics of this thing, got more to learn about it. And I mentioned on another video that this is for sale. I'm going to get a bigger one that can bend thicker material. And also on we were trying to bend the if you go back here on this to the manual movement, this right here, well, let's see, yeah, that controls how far down it lets you come on this. So when we were getting those partial bends in the thicker material where it seemed like it was bottoming out, I think it had more left in it. Where is it? So like the 1/4 inch, see those we just were limiting how far it comes down. Let me just put that this other die back in there real quick and play with that some more and show you, see if we can get a 90 degree on that. All right, we got the other die back in there. Let's see if we can get this to come down on lower. That's what we got on that one. So on the screen right there, see that 6.293? We're gonna lower that to allow it to come down lower. All right, let's try that. Oh yeah, there's the one we just did. Well, that's the first one. That's the one we just did. Almost at a 90. All right, let's see if we get 90 this time. All right, real close to 90 right there. Making go a shade more. Let's do the other end, and I'm gonna bump the number down a little bit more.